So today I wanted to share a video with you guys about um, a guy called Bryan Johnson. He's pretty famous, so you may know him. But I think he's 48-year-old, and he was a pretty big entrepreneur. I think he started Braintree, and later sold that to Venmo, I believe, and it's probably worth a few $100 million. I think right now he has a couple companies. It's all centered around like finding out what it takes to quote unquote live forever or optimize your health, longevity. And so this is a video. I'll just let you kind of watch a little bit of it.
3 years ago, I asked the most unthinkable and crazy question possible. Are we the first generation that won't die? To explore this question, I hired a team of 30 medical professionals. We measured the biological age of every one of my organs, and then we applied the very best science ever done on healthspan and lifespan. It's worked. I now have the best biomarkers of anybody in the world. I am the healthiest person on planet Earth. And while the protocol is always changing, this is what I'm doing now. Every day begins for me not when I wake up, but when I go to bed, as sleep is my #1 life priority. I'm asleep by 8:30 p.m., and I naturally wake around 5 a.m., never using an alarm. The very first thing I do when I wake up is I get 10,000 lux light into my eyes for 3 to 4 minutes. As I'm sitting there, I'll take my inner ear temperature, as my body temperature has dropped 5 degrees Fahrenheit over the past few years, given metabolic efficiencies. Then I'll do a body composition measurement, looking at fat, muscle, hydration, weight, arterial stiffness using a smart scale. I'll then apply a hair serum, massage my scalp for 1 to 2 minutes, and wear a red light hair cap for 6 minutes. I'll do a breathing exercise or meditation for 5 minutes to get my mind and body set for the day. Then I'll consume an 8-ounce drink consisting of Blueprint Longevity Mix, collagen peptides, creatine, and some prebiotics. Next, I'll work out for 60 to 90 minutes. I will focus on strength, cardio, flexibility, and balance. While working out, I'll rotate listening to music, books, podcasts. On the weekends, I'll play pickleball, ride a bike, climb, hang out with friends. Next, for breakfast, I will have Blueprint Longevity Protein and Berry Nut Mix, collagen peptides, extra virgin olive oil, and 100% pure cacao with a few dozen pills. After breakfast, I will squeeze in a few additional therapies. Daily, I do red and near-infrared light therapy 6 minutes a day. Currently, I have 2 additional therapies. One is hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and second is focused shockwave therapy, which I'm doing for my entire body, first in world. Next, I will jump into the shower, wash my face, apply moisturizer and vitamin C, and then 2.
Well, I probably can't show the whole video because of copywriting. But you could go ahead and feel free to watch it. Um, Now he's obviously a very successful entrepreneur, and he's using his own body as testing, to kind of find out what are, some ways you could increase longevity, improve your health. So it's pretty impressive. That being, and he at 48, I mean, he looks, let's just
2 to 3 times a week, I will exfoliate with a Japanese, feeling pretty good.
And at 48, I think he looks better than most 48-year-old. And if you look at what he used to look like when he was, before he started to do this, when he was actually an entrepreneur, he said he was overweight, he wasn't healthy, and he just feel and look a lot more healthy. Um, Now I know in the previous video we talked about how I think in the future most likely is going to be conscious machines. That's the only thing that could travel the universe. That's the only thing that's really eternal. And that's not that that's what we should all strive for, but that's kind of what humans generally want to do. They want to live longer. Now, there's still value in for the next couple hundred years, or it may be even longer for us, the biological being, to actually live longer and healthier, right? Um, I don't know what's your thought on it. If you had a choice to live a long time, how long would you want to live? Um, Certainly, we all want to be healthier. So I did a little research on the things that he think are important in living longer. Let me see. So I think the number one thing that he says is actually sleep. Um, if we go back, actually look at the human composition, it's I think 60-70% water. So I think hydration is very important. And obviously, there's some people think there's a lot of bad things in our water, right? So obviously, you should drink water that's clean and purified, and that's a whole probably another talk and research that I have to do. But you have to drink, hydrate yourself. Um, and then the rest of us were made of meat and bone, and so I do believe we should be eating meat and maybe some bone broth. Now, the tricky part about meat is a lot of the animals that we eat are not healthy. I mean, they're locked up in a cage. And so you would imagine if you are able to source meat from animals that are healthy, and how do you do that? Again, that's a complete different talk. You can do a little research on that. But I do believe in that, drinking water, eating animals that are healthy. Um, and the other thing is, we're most people in the US live paycheck to paycheck, so it's kind of difficult to obviously do what Bryan Johnson does every day. It's probably hard to eat, organic, free range food as well. But I think the trick is, I think we're overeating, so by eating fewer meals, they call it intermittent fasting. By eating fewer meals, but more high quality meats, vegetables, maybe cutting back sugar, drinking water. It might turn out to be something that we could all do, because you're eating less, right? But you're eating quality food. Now, what's the evidence of intermittent fasting? If you go back to our ancestors, you know, back in the days when we were hunting, we didn't eat. Fasting was just a fact of life. And we ate when someone brought home a hunt. And so there's also this thing about we enjoy buffet, right? We enjoy eating meals, we enjoy around a campfire eating, and that's very kind of that's what our ancestors did. But we also fasted. The problem these days is that there's a lot of businesses in food, and so we are encouraged to eat. There are things in the food, whether it's MSG to sugar to other things that makes food very addictive. So I do believe in lower sugar and eating less, intermittent fasting. Again, I don't know what your thoughts are. I mean, I did a quite bit of reading and research on this before, but you could always research and pay people to do research to come up with different results and opinions. But anyway, that's my thought on that. And the other thing is oxygen, right? If you think about it, you could hold your breath maybe 40 seconds to 2 minutes. I mean, depending on your health and who you are. So oxygen is the most important thing. And so depending on where you're living, what type of air you're breathing in, asthma to smoking. I mean, if you breathe in smoke and line your whole airway with smoke, oxygen is probably not that going to be. So oxygen is very important. And the other thing is water, right? Most people need water. Now, food, you could fast. People can fast. There's religion that do 1, 2, 3 week fast. And the other factor of that is how much store energy you have on you. I mean, if you're lean, you can't fast as long, but you're fat, that's the energy storage. I mean, there's no ethical reasons. I don't say, hey, fat people are this way, this, that. I don't really care, right? But the fat is store energy. Okay. So if you're hungry and you feel like you need to eat more, well, that's probably not healthy because you have a lot of store energy. Now, how do you teach your body to use that is you have to fast. And having sugar high and low and or processed food that are addictive, it makes fasting very, very difficult. But once you get used to it, again, you have to drink water, sleep, and all that. But once you your body gets used to no sugar, no carbo, and you get used to the fasting, you can actually fast for a long time. Again, it depends on how much fat you have on you. So I do think if you look at the hospital, a lot of the people in there, whether it's orthopedic surgery, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, they're overweight. And if you imagine, for me, if I were to carry 50 pound of weight on me, I'd be exhausted. And if I put 50 pound of weight on my belly, I probably can't breathe very well when I'm sleeping. If I have 50 pound of weight around my neck, that'd be sleep apnea, right? Some people have that. They can't, when they go to sleep, their muscle collapse. They have so much weight on their airway, in their belly, right? They can't breathe. Um, and so, it's again, I know it's easier said than done because there's a psychological component why people overeat. But again, having good body composition and lower weight, it's just healthier. Okay. um and remember, fat is store energy, right? If you fast, you'll use it. Your body will learn to use it. It won't let you starve to death. And there's fat on the outside, but there's also fat inside in your intestine, in your stomach. um and fast also stores a lot of fast soluble toxins. And that's why some people think when you fast, you actually break down the fat, and if you drink a lot of water, etc., you'll get rid of a lot of toxins. Um, anyway, so the number second thing Brian seems to say is exercise. Again, these ranking may be a little different. I'm not him. Exercise, I think keeping your body moving, I think that is important. If you look at people who are not moving, let's say they're bedridden, a lot of disease tend to happen. And so I think keep your body moving, right? Now, does that mean six pack? No, it doesn't mean six pack, right? Most people exercise for look or health. And so, but keeping your body moving is important. I think it's between weightlifting, strength training, just being mobile, and maybe keeping your heart working, because your heart is a pump. And so it's important to keep that pump functioning, and so the vessel doesn't get clogged up, like atherosclerotic disease. And there are other injuries, vascular injuries that cause the clot. But if you keep the healthy heart pumping and do some cardio, it'll keep your blood vessels kind of more patent. And blood vessel is important in delivering oxygen and nutrient, and also getting rid of waste. Um, so now the other thing he mentioned, number three, I think maintaining muscle, low body fat, that we kind of mentioned about that. Again, I'm not here preaching to you. I'm just kind of sharing what my research is, what my thoughts are, and what Brian is suggesting. And it's up to you to decide um, what's right for you. Number four, he said, is blood pressure control, glucose, cholesterol optimization. Okay, well, I do believe sugar is bad for you. That being said, all things are good in moderation, right? Um, Sugars, I don't think is good for you. But do I have sugar? Yes. Because what does it do? Sometimes it makes you feel better psychologically. And so periodically, I'll have a boba drink. Boba milk is sweet, but it's not like I don't do that every day. And these are also addictive. People drink coffee, and coffee's addiction, but it's also the sugar that's in it. Um, and again, you need some to keep your mind engaged, keep your mental, keep you happy, I guess. But you have to evaluate where you are physically and how healthy you are, and kind of make the decision. Now, next thing after that, I think Brian mentioned whole food diet. He eats mostly plant-based diet. Again, I'm all for plant. I believe the fibers, the vitamins, and all the other benefit. But it's also, hey, you have to know what type of plant, what soil, how they fertilize it. So the more natural the plants are, probably the better. If the bugs eat it, they're probably healthier. So where do you find vegetable and fruits like that? I don't know. Again, it's a whole hour, 2 hour thing, and then you have to do some research about that. But I also believe that we're made up of mostly water and then meat and bone. So I believe in eating meat. Just have to eat healthy meat. And remember fasting. I think that's very, very important, because I think overeating is a problem. The next thing he mentioned is cardio training. Again, we mentioned about that, strength training or hygiene. That's important. I mean, because the mouth is connected to your body. It's actually there's ligaments around the teeth, um, and so it's important to keep your oral health because it could be an area of infection. The next thing he mentioned is skin protection, sunscreen, or minimizing exposure. And I noticed that, I don't do a whole lot of sunscreen. I should. But I noticed I used to have a job that's a good bit of indoor, and we just don't have because sun is basically heat, right? It's no different than microwave and cooking. It's cooking. Now there's benefit of sun. I think it converts vitamin D to the active form, which is very important. Health. It's health for your body and your bone. Um, but too much sun exposure, how people, especially we're designed to be a certain way, right? Black people that have dark skin that protects them from the sun. And the benefit is they don't get sun damage. They typically look young when they're older. And people who are yellow skin like me, they're kind of in between. And then there's white. If you go under the sun, you don't have the pigment to protect it, and you end up getting burnt. And then when you're older, your skin is all damaged and wrinkled, and they get skin cancer. So, if you're if you don't have naturally have the pigment to support to protect yourself, you should probably avoid the sun. Again, there's benefit, there's disadvantages, right? Um, and sunscreen, good. I use it sometimes when I go to like a very sunny or hot area. The other nine he does is biomarker testing. This is probably where most of us cannot do, right? I mean, we take the time, it costs money. But he does a lot of biomarker testing, stress management. Again, I think he runs multiple companies, so he's pretty stressed. But there's other, but he's wealthy, and for people who are paycheck to paycheck, stress management is difficult, and I think that's a whole nother talk. Probably have to find ways to increase your income or cash flow or investment and reduce your expenses. And that's another video. I know there are people moving overseas. I mean, they have online US income, which is inflated, which you get paid more, but they avoid the US expensive lifestyle by moving somewhere else to another country where the average income is lower, but the average cost is lower. And by doing that, they lower their stress level. um, Again, that's another, stress management. There's a lot of things. Now, number 12, supplement. Um, I don't know what again, every one of these things I mentioned, you could comment and see what you think yourself, whether you agree with Bryan or not. Supplements. Um, I do believe deficiency is important. I mean, I heard of a friend of mine who had Crohn's disease or other disease, and they get vitamin C infusion or other vitamin infusion periodically, and it helps their Crohn's disease. So I do believe in that, but supplement is kind of a very broad field, and when you put things in your mouth, you always have to be concerned whether it's pure, whether it's helpful. And so, unless you know who's supplying those supplement, I would probably be careful. I mean, versus the IV vitamin C, even then, like you don't know if the manufacturer, if the store is getting it from the right manufacturer, and they're giving pure vitamin C in there. So again, I believe in supplement. You just have to be very careful of what you're putting in your mouth. Um, Now, next thing Bryan talked about is hormone optimization or selective hormone therapy. I don't get any hormone therapy, and I know some people who get testosterone replacement therapy because I'm in my 50s. Some people who get testosterone replacement therapy swear by it. Obviously, there's also side effects, so it's just not something I could talk about. Um, but again, comment below if you have any thoughts on hormonal therapy, especially testosterone for guys. Um, Also, other experimental longevity drugs. At least that's what Bryan said. I don't know about that. Again, um, I know there are genetic therapies, which I believe. There's thoughts on that we are programmed to live a certain age, and you see that in genetics, right? longevity does run in the family. Some family they could they could smoke tobacco and they live until they're 90. Um, so for example, our body is the hardware. Our hardware breaks down, but we have a DNA which is a genetic coding. It's like a program, like a computer program. Our DNA tell you how to repair things, how to use things when you eat vegetable, when you eat, watermelon and pineapple and fish. How do you actually make a human, like replace our cells? Our cells, our bodies are constantly breaking down, being turned over. You're adding things. You're adding potato, fish, uh, uh, cows and pigs, and they become you. They don't become a cow or pig. And so that genetic software is very important, and that's why sometimes cancer run the family. And so I do believe in genetic therapy. Hopefully, as I learn more, I'll be able to talk about it. But essentially, you could insert genetic repair, or even excise bad DNA and put in healthier DNA, and just kind of change your body in the software level to tell you how to repair yourself and how to live longer. As in, they research some starfish, they cut off the part of the starfish and it grows back. Um, so I do believe in that, and that's pretty exciting, I guess. When that does happen, um, ag- in a monetary world, I'm sure it's still expensive, right? Only rich people get it first. Um, but actually, that's a pretty exciting topic to kind of genetically improve ourselves. But short of that, we mentioned some of the things that we could actually do today. Sleeping better, keeping hydrated, eating healthy animal or plants, cutting sugar, um, improve breathing, and obviously don't put anything in your airway that interfere with breathing. What else? Um, Stress management, skin protection, and strength training. And being lean, fasting. Anyway, whatever I say, I realize people are going to live how they want to live. Um, and these are fairly common knowledge. But I encourage you to be healthy. I mean, in my 50s, I realize our time is just limited. And like I said before in other videos, that's why I'm doing a YouTube channel. I'm trying to have a second side hustle that could kind of go with me, that I could take with me, and maybe go live somewhere else. And also just continue to engage my mind and have an audience and kind of engage and learn. Um, so our lifetime is limited, right? I'm in my 50s. So you have to make a choice. Some people say, hey, I'm just going to live what I want, eat what I want, and do what I want. I don't care if I'm 100, 300 pound overweight. Then that's fine. And that's absolutely fine. Everyone has the right to their own choices. But I want to live healthy, hopefully longer, but I want to have a healthy when I'm older. And when you're young, you don't care. When you're young, I mean, I ate buffets. I didn't sleep much. I mean, I work hard, but when you get older, you realize time is limited and you want to live healthy. And so I encourage you, again, I'm very grateful that you're listening to me, but I do encourage you to live better, live healthier. And it's a process that I'll continue to learn. Um, that way you could, when you're old, you can enjoy life. Um, because I know people who are, whether they're younger and sick or old and sick, it sucks. I mean, so stay healthy, okay? Very grateful. I'll give your thoughts on what some of these things that Bryan suggests, and see what you're gonna, and let us know what changes you'll make, if you'll make any changes. Thank you for listening. Very grateful. And we'll continue to get better. Okay, this channel will continue to get better. Thanks.